Oh, the ads are over. Jesus Christ, Twitch. I ran ads and then you were like, I'm gonna run more ads and there's nothing you can do about it. I did. It's telling me pre-rolls are off for like an entire hour now. But alas, Twitch just told me, wow, it really wanted to make with the ads. How is everyone doing? Happy post Thanksgiving. My cat, I see my cat's blurry form approaching. Hey, sweetheart. The cat is also here to wish any people arriving at the beginning of the stream a happy first day of late stage capitalism of the year, I guess. Happy Black Friday for all of you who partake and/or participate. I'm trying to avoid participating, although I did buy a thing, but it wasn't a Black Friday splurge. I needed to buy some folding chairs anyway. And it turns out there were some pretty decent ones, like a 56% discount on sale. So, yay. Those got ordered and supposedly will be here in like 2 weeks. Because, I don't know, being shipped from wherever. Anyway, but on the plus side, I got some good chairs for, all right, fairly well. Don't click on things. Jesus Christ, cat. Okay, good. She didn't break anything. Um, I'm, getting the chairs. 2 weeks. Looking forward to that. It was like $60. Not bad. But also, anyway, as you can probably tell, I'm fairly scatterbrained today. I'm gonna be honest. I may, as always, with all Friday streams, I reserve the right, the privilege, and the I do not have a mic. No, wait, I do. Oh my God, what mic is this using? A horrible mic. Oh, geez, no, wait. I just realized. Oh, I probably sound like shit. Oh, no. I can't. You are. What is it? Why are we back? Why are we back? Sorry, folks, give me a second. I just realized what's happening here. This thing is probably using my webcams. Why did I normally never. Bear with. Well, these need to read. Okay. Bear with. Let's make sure you are using. Yeah, I see what happened there. Let's change this to wireless. Nope. There we go. There we go. Wait. Haha. Huh. Okay. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, let me turn that down a bit. There we go. Okay, I see what happened. I was testing a different mic earlier. Not a great one right now, at least not until I'm able to do some soundproofing, because the other, Jesus Christ, cat, sweetheart, honey, you're on my keyboard. You're everything I love. Yes, but you are. Come here. Look at this beautiful creature. Look at this beautiful. Yeah, but she's already biting me. Yeah, this beautiful little monster who is just. Oh, okay, there. Okay. Hi, Phoenix. Welcome in, friend. Fresh chaos was that I had my mic set up all wrong, but now that's done. Now that's resolved, and therefore I am now full on at professional level broadcaster. So, hey, welcome in. How was your Thanksgiving, friend? And how was your Thanksgiving post Thanksgiving? I guess. Cat, kitty. Okay. Look at that. I guess I'm getting snacks down there. Have some snacks. I've given my cat some kibbles. She's being weird today with food. If I look a little concerned, it's because she's being weird today. I don't think she's sick or anything. Might be just, I don't know, but she's being weird about her food today. So anyway, today's plan, as is usual on Fridays, is I'm going to be working on my game, Seeker's Call. I don't remember exactly where we left off. Not bad. Got together with immediate family. With your immediate family, I'm assuming. Cool. Yeah, I unfortunately, it was just a chill Thanksgiving. All my family lives. Sorry, I'm still readjusting here. All my family, lives down in Puerto Rico, or my dad is down in Texas. Either way, all of them are very far away from New York, and currently nobody has money or time to travel to visit anyone else this holiday season, unfortunately. I had really been hoping to get to see my family this holiday season. Um, it's very unlikely I'll be able to travel down to Puerto Rico, just budget wise and all that, especially with everything I'm trying to do. Right now, it is what it is, right? But, still a chill one. Spent it mostly just binge watching What We Do in the Shadows, which, you know, good show. And I'm so far behind. I'm like still on season 2 of that show, and apparently it's like it finally got like 5 or 6 seasons. I think it's over now. I think, not 100% sure, but I know it's got like at least 3 more seasons that I haven't even seen. Finished watching Arcane. Arcane is amazing. Holy shit. Which sucks because it's on Netflix, and I hate Netflix, and Netflix should burn. But that said, if you have Netflix, or if you're not, you know, yo ho, yeah. Arcane just knocked me on my ass. Absolutely knocked me on my ass. Just the quality of the art, the writing, the presentation, just gorgeous, and just gut punch after gut punch. I really really liked it. Um, and it is. I saw somebody comment on, I think it was TikTok, that something like Arcane kind of helps remind you of just how useless AI stuff is for true creativity. Because like no AI could have come up with something like that. Like the fact that it stands out so much, as so visually stunning, it's because it's so different from what's come before. And the whole thing with AI is that it can't really do new, it can't really do different, it can't really do original. All it can do is remix a little bit and regurgitate. um and I think, like, yeah, when I look at series like those, like, yeah, that's just sort of that reminder of at least where AI isn't today. Um, will we ever have like something comparable to human level? I don't know. I'm not gonna say I don't know. Um, I don't think. I will say this. I don't think there's anything inherently magical about the human brain. Like it is a physical object that obeys material laws. Um, it's also incredibly complex, and we still don't 100% understand it. But also, there were many things that we didn't understand it for. So will we ever be able to effectively replicate an artificial brain, artificial intelligence that works in a way similar to what the human brain does and can achieve true sentience and creativity? I don't think it's impossible. Certainly don't think it's impossible. We definitely don't have that right now. Exactly. I don't think a sapient technological being is an impossibility. Exactly. Like it's kind of like a ship of Theseus thing. If you were to able to, while maintaining all the other biological processes running, take a person's brain and replace it neuron by neuron with mechanical, technological sort of neurons, techno neurons, if you will, I don't know what we will call them, but anyway, point is, like, one by one, eventually you'd have a brain made entirely of these tech neurons, but it would essentially be the same, right? If it's been operating the same way throughout all of this, right? It doesn't really matter that much what it's made out of. So yeah, like I said, I don't think it's impossible. I definitely don't know. I know we don't have that now. What we do have is some impressive tools, and I think that there are a lot of things that they can be useful for. Unfortunately, the things that they're being made useful for, it's like that. What is that? That was it, a tweet, or I don't know, a message that was something along the lines of, artificial intelligence and robotics should automate away the boring, labor-intensive parts of life, so that we can focus on being creative and enjoying ourselves and just embracing being human. And instead, these systems are being utilized specifically to take over create creative areas, the areas where no, that like that's the one thing that humanity is good at that nothing else can do, and you're like making these machines that could do other stuff, could do so many other things. There are so many jobs that should be automated. People should not be forced to work all the time, right? We should not be forced to like, well, we have the resources, we have technology, and we have the knowledge. I strongly, firmly, and 100% believe that we as a human race right now in the year of our Lord 2024 have the technological and productive capacity to provide every single person on earth a home, food, basic, just guarantees of employment, home, etc. Easily. The one thing stopping it is like basically political will and people's prejudices. But like, we have enough people, we have enough resources that if we used it all not in service of money but in service of actually meeting needs, yeah, we would be able to provide everything for everyone, and it wouldn't even be that fucking hard. Right? Because there's so many things that are good ideas that would save time, save effort, etc., and they are not implemented because they would not be profitable in a capitalist market system. But if you don't have to think about quote unquote profit, then all of a sudden, yeah, this, because that's not the purpose. It is meeting needs. And we can provide for everyone's needs with very little labor. But that's just me though. Hey, Struggle Bus, by the way, sorry, I was mid rant and I saw your saw your text come in. Can't stay long. We wish a merry Black Friday to you all. Hope you all had a good day yesterday without too much current events talk. It was just me and the cat, and we agree on most of our politics. Sweetheart, how are you doing? You're just being a little weirdo over there. Hey, hi. Sorry, I'm mildly concerned about the cat today because she's being a little weird with the food. So just if I pay her extra attention today, please, I beg your forgiveness. But no, mine was chill. It was just me and the cat, honestly, and the housemate. And we all agree. So no issues. Yeah, it was a nice day. I hope yours was as well. And if you're already gone, I'm just talking to myself. Cool. We'll hopefully see you again next week. Friendo. All right. Well, anyway, so my cat. Okay, she's responding. Cool, baby girl. I love you. Oh, there we go. Hello. Hi. Coming back. No, maybe. I don't know what's up with her. But I see you back there. All right. Go take a nap, sweetheart. All right. Well, on that note, folks, I did say I was going to work on my game. And that's my game right there on that window. So I'm going to go ahead and do some work on it. I do, as always, retain the right to pivot to a video game if needed. I lied earlier. When I said I didn't buy any Black Friday splurges. I did. Just the one, because the chairs were a necessity. But I checked on Steam. I made an error. Checked on Steam, and I didn't buy a lot of new games or anything, but I did buy one, which I don't know if I should have. And we could move closer to a utopia, says Phoenix, or at least a functional topia, if we weren't so dead set on our exactly. Like, if we could just get over ourselves as a society in certain areas, like. Because I think, and I may be wrong here, I think people are basically good. I know, hot take, and honestly, current events and the world at large, if you do not agree with that take, I get it. It's a hard one even for me. Like, I had to think about it before I said it. I was like, do I honestly believe that? And I do. I do honestly believe that at their core, the majority, the bulk, not just the plurality, but like the majority of human beings are inherently good. Selfish, yes, but good. Like, part of the reason humanity has gotten to the point that it is right now is because we have it kind of built into ourselves to work together, to cooperate, to lift one another up. The problem is that, yes, not everybody is good, right? Not everybody is at their core good. There are some people, like I said, I don't think everyone is good at their core. I think the majority of people are good at their core. Unfortunately, there are some people that are just purely selfish, that are just that their interests, whether they are born that way or whether they become that way through nature, nurture. I'm not going to say, and I'm not saying, oh, these people aren't human. No, they're humans just like us, right? They are people, but they are not. They lack that inherent kindness, and I feel like, unfortunately, like the solution to everything to me is systems, right? If the correctly implemented system can really handle the bulk of that. But the systems that we have right now, unfortunately, are designed for the benefit of the folks that are not inherently kind. And when I say that, I'm talking about capitalists. I'm talking about the billionaires here. Like, you trust me, if you cash a paycheck every other week or whatever, you are not a capitalist. Despite what you may think of yourself, you are not a capitalist. You are a worker. You are a laborer. I assure you, if you are watching this stream, you are not a capitalist, friend. Even though they think so. The world tries to tell you that you are. You are not. You are a worker. You are trapped in a capitalist system. You are generating capital for those that actually own capital. That is what's happening. And the people that own the capital are the people who, like, you don't get to own capital. You don't get to be a billionaire if you have empathy in your heart. That's just not how that works. That's not how that works. You cannot accumulate those draconic levels of wealth and also claim that you have empathy, true empathy and care for the rest of humanity. It's just, no. It makes no, you cannot, it simply cannot. It is incompatible at its core. Just like capitalism at its core is incompatible with kindness, with charity, with like, all it wants is more of itself, accumulation of itself. Like, we need to move beyond it. It served its purpose. But anyway, I'm not, unfortunately, I cannot start the revolution from this stream despite my ranting. So instead, I will return to my game. Also, for anyone here who wasn't here on yesterday's stream, which I get, because yesterday was Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving. Cool. Yeah, I hope you had a good one, right? But I've done a couple of things. I've set up a couple of things. First of all, I have some alerts. So if we get any follows or any subscribes today, alerts, we'll get that. I tried to set one up for raids, but it couldn't get it to work. I'm gonna have to, I think, lean on something from like Stream Elements to get a raid alert going. Not that raids happen very often, but we did get one, and I felt bad that I couldn't give them a proper alert. But I do have some alerts now. Hopefully will work. They are mostly untested, but we'll see. And if they happen, whenever anybody subscribes or follows, they get a dice roll, and we all get to see if it's what kind of dice roll it is. It's actually random each time, and then we either celebrate or whine if. Depending on the results. And also perhaps useful for today's thing is, check this out. Hey, I have dice that I can now roll, like virtual dice, for those times when I'm not doing the overhead thing, and it's all of them. So I've got a D4, I've got a D6, got a D8, got a 10. You could, but I think Twitch kind of like frowns on that. So I'm not sure if it would trigger the alert. Let's see, D12, and of course I already rolled the D20. Yeah. So anyway, we have dice that we can test out. I do need to take some time to actually have some kind of counter that, like, maybe like down there, that bottom corner, that actually like displays the results. Oh, hey, there you go. No, there you go. It worked. It worked. Oh, well, oh, no, it kind of worked. So it grabbed the previous version, the previous person. I think. Thank you for the refollow, by the way. But I think it grabbed the previous person that followed. Okay, so my script is wrong, but it does that. It does a little roll and an alert. Okay, so actually, you know what? I think I can fix that. Give me a second. I can probably fix that. Give me here. All right, so why is that going? So I think I have to maybe move this. Roll result. So maybe do this. Move it here. No. Bear with me just a moment. I'm going to spend just one moment to see if I can get this to work. And if it does not, that is fine. That is fine, and I'm not going to waste any more time on it. Okay, let's see. Huh. So does it need to re-get this? Do I need to run it? What if I run it manually? No, same person. No, so it just keeps... Huh. Okay, so I'm gonna have to get Sammy to... Sammy's the program I'm using for this. Looks like I'm gonna have to get Sammy to... wait, oops, accidentally broke that. To sort of refresh, re-pull the information, because it grabbed the info last time, and the JSON object that it got is still showing Carambas as the most recent user, the most recent follower. So for some reason, okay, so there's gotta be some kind of command. Let's see, is there a command, some kind of like refresh JSON command on the Sammy? This is great. This is great streaming, by the way. I'm doing amazing. You did initiate this process, so yes, true. Like I'm here until we get Phoenix, until we get you your. Okay, so let's see. So is there some kind of Twitch, send chat message, add block term, add moderator, API call? No. Create API header, create clip, create prediction, create reward, get automods, get channel info, get channel teams, get chat settings, chatters, connection, get follower count, get latest followers. Yes, that's the one that I did. All right, and then we go, and we did the channel, and we give it a name. All right, I think I'm going to have to, I'll leave it in place. I'll leave it in place, and we'll figure it out later. And it's just like, if we get any more follows, we'll just call them out manually. And Carambas is just going to get so many, so many alerts. Also, we've got ads again very shortly, because that is just how these things go. But I'll have to look at the documentation, because it looks like at some point in, and you know what here, I'm gonna kind of show you something just so you see the mess that this is. Where is app capture? Let me repoint that over at, can I? Wait, no, I think I closed Sammy. There we go. So can I repoint app capture at Sammy? I may need to, there we go. Oh, okay, so move that a little here. So these are the roles. Here we go. And if I do this, like if I double click, now this is, there's nothing proprietary here. There's no API keys or anything. Don't worry. But there you go. Like this is the thing. It's just a giant if statement with 20, like roll. But here's the part. It's supposed to get Twitch, get latest followers, and then I'll set that as the latest follow. And if you look at the variable window, latest follow, data, and the most recent object it's still showing Carambas. So I don't know what needs to be done. Let me try running it manually one more time. Bear with me. I want to try this again. So here we go. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Can I? Maybe not. It might be, but literally the first step is fetch the info, right? So let's see. All right, right, bear with me. Let's try this. I'm gonna try and trigger one manually from here. It's the same. It's always the same. But if I trigger it again, will it refresh? Because I had that happen once where it was like, oh, undefined, and then I triggered it again. No, now it's just stuck on the same. So it's not refreshing the JSON. So there's got to be some SAMI command that I'm not thinking of that is that needs. You know what? We're about to go on ad break. Let me see if in the minute and 30 seconds that we've got, I can. Let me get Obsidian back up. In the minute and 30 seconds that we've got, let me see if I can find whatever command would sort of refresh the JSON on this. In the meantime, as always, bear with me. Thank you so much for hanging out, and we will be right back. Okay, so it turns out a minute and a half is not long enough to fucking figure out why that's happening. And I don't know, it might be, but it's like the variable is supposed to be created at the moment. I'm defining it right there at the beginning of the process. It's like, it just sounds like it went to Twitch, it fetched Twitch's information, and then it hasn't refreshed it. So there's gotta be some kind of command, Twitch event sub, right? So I am connected to it. Receive events from, send messages as, and civilized Dan. Yeah, I have my rewards set up. Like it's connected. It's all there. Like, so there might be a command. There might be a command somewhere that is just needs, that does the actual like JSON refresh, because what it picks up is just a JSON, right, answer from when it hits the API. So it's got to be some kind of API refresh or something that maybe I've got to do. I just don't see it at first glance, and I'm not going to spend my stream troubleshooting, entirely troubleshooting SAMI. That's what the weekend is for, right? So with all that in mind, folks, let us dive in. Where did we leave off? So I had let's see, where's my, there we go, Obsidian. So we'd worked on Grafter. Well, how far did we get on? All right, we stopped on Grafter because we needed to get back to the system, right? So here we go. Let me kind of go to the home page, and from there we'll keep going. Which one is the Seeker's Call homepage? Oh, here we go. Game intro. Homepage. It's always at the bottom. I don't know why it always takes me so long to remember that. Okay, so playing the game. So we did the action roll. So combat is the main thing that we were working on last time. Let's see. So all this stays. So the combat roll, all right? So how do we set that up? Start with 1d6. Yeah, Jesus Christ, Dan, what kind of accent was that supposed to be? Anyway, the combat roll is a special roll. Okay, so discover the resolution. Okay, I hate the wording on this already, but whatever. It's not so much about wording, we're just figuring out systems. Let's see. Start 1d6. 1d6. Damn, 1d6. Add an additional d6 for each character taking part in combat. Add up the challenge ratings for all enemies in combat. Subtract that many dice in the combat pool. This cannot reduce the pool to less than 1 die. Cool. Okay, so yeah, so we got this. Even single die rolls 1, the expedition is considered victorious. They should then choose one of 2 options. They may write the results of their action. They discover the results. Boop, 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 boop. Right. Okay. Oh, I just pasted this. I didn't actually write it out. Right. So this needs to be rewritten. This was just me pasting the skeleton. So this will need to be rewritten shortly. And then enemies. Okay. So we did create enemies. So this is nice. For combat purpose. Okay. So there's a couple of things that we need to do, and it's tricks. Okay. So we did kind of add this. First skill natural within a week. So there's got to be a couple of things that we need to do. So we talked about injury and healing. This is fine. Death, and we have an optional rule for that. So I think where I need to kind of spend a little time thinking here is so there's mechanics, actual game mechanics that affect a roll, and then there's flavor, right? And flavor can inform mechanics. So for example, this one, the burn discord, right? So you can have an enemy, right? So simple tricks, fire barrier, for example, is a trick that an enemy can do. The enemy creates 1d6 fire barriers. Each of these barriers counts as a challenge one enemy for purpose of the combat roll. Barriers can be destroyed by an action roll. Failing on this roll inflicts 1 injury discord from fire damage. Optional character suffering an injury from a fire barrier should make an action roll to resist or suffer the burned discord. And that's so here we've got a damage that includes basic, standard damage, a standard injury, which is how you measure damage in this game. But then it also inflicts a condition. So all things, conditions, good or bad, honestly, not good or bad. Sorry, just all negative status effects are discords, and so we'll define different. So this one is burned, and we could have like a frostbitten discord and a shocked discord and stuff like that. And they're going to have different flavor effects, right? But at the end of the day, so burned has a couple of things. It gives you a penalty on rolls. So all things, again, like, how do you affect rolls? You affect rolls by either giving penalties or giving pluses to those rolls. And of course, applying resonance at times. But I want to think of what else we can do, because if everything comes down to add or remove one, because there's a couple extra things. Like here, the burnt discord, it's got the penalty, but also there's a custom effect here, right? It makes it so that whenever you take additional injuries, or whenever you take any extra injuries, while you have this discord, the injuries might actually get worse. Which, that's an example of something besides just providing a penalty to the roll. But at the end of the day, all injuries do is they take away dice on physical action rolls. And this is supposed to be can stack. Oh, capital A. There we go. But let's take something like shocked or electrified, right? In fact, let's work on that. Let's work on that. Let's make an example out of it. So if we got here, we go, add what's the Discord? AD Discord, yeah, exactly. AD Discord, and we go, okay, so the name is Discord is, and we call this one shocked. And we give it some effects. Effect. -1 dice on physical action rolls until resolved. And resolution, shock, resolves after 1 action, or when the source of the shock is no longer being applied to the character. Pretty simple, right? Cool. But what else? Like, so we could do something like, additionally, whenever a character would, so additionally, roll 1d6 before any action roll attempt. A roll of 4 to 6 indicates that your character, indicates that the character is frozen in place. I want to say like, and misses their turn, but also at the same time, I hate effects that take you out of combat entirely, unless it's like I'm out. But like stuff like, oh, I'm paralyzed. Well, guess that's my turn then. Like, Dan, we got to your turn. What are you doing? Well, I'm still paralyzed. Do I have a saving throw for this? No. Okay. Cool. Next. And then you sit there again. You know, like that's boring. I don't want to do that to players. So, some kind of effect. I hate turn missing. Exactly. Seems good when designing and feels terrible when playing. Exactly. No. I don't want to do missed turns, but I think we should have something that reflects the classic shocked. Without just being a whole, like, there's a constant -1 dice on physical action rolls. Well, I design powers with effects even on a miss. Yeah. So I don't want to miss turns, and I don't. See, this is the tricky part. This is the part that's like, all right. So if I'm not I'm not missing turns, and I'm not, I don't want to just add further penalties, because the easy fix, right, would be, okay, cool. So roll a d6 on a roll of 4 to 6. Then that penalty increases because you're frozen in place. The penalty increases to like -3, increasing the cost of actions. There's really no. I mean, there's a cost. Ooh, that's actually a good one. It's actually kind of brutal too. So there could be something that could say, I don't know how I feel about the idea of saying, that you have, sorry, I'm just getting the dice up. let's say, normally you would take, you would risk dice 1 for 1. So if I've got a 1d6 and I'm risking 3 dice, I'm rolling 1, 2, 3, 4, and I spent, I risked 3 dice, and were any of those ones? No. So that was a failure, and I just lost 3 dice. But that cost me 3 dice. But I could say, no, now dice cost more. Now dice cost double. Actually, maybe for a low level. Okay, so for something high level, I could say like every dice until this resolves, every dice you risk actually, costs 2 dice. That's interesting, because that means that that's like in fact, that's what. Let's write that one out real quick before we forget about it. So let's try that. AD Discord, and then we're gonna call this one Discord. Let's call it exhausted for now. Effect while a character is exhausted, any time they risk dice on an action roll, they must spend twice the amount of dice risked. E.g., if risking 1 die, the player must spend 2. If risking 4 dice, the player must spend 8. This will need to be rewritten, but it's the basic concept. And then resolution exhaustion resolves once a character has had a full day and night's rest and food. Right? So we've got that. So with that in place, now I think it's frozen in place, and we'll have to spend additional effort to complete the action. For the duration of that action, the cost of risking dice on action rolls is doubled. Basically, same wording again. Stuff will need to be rewritten eventually, but I think that works. So exhaustion makes it like you are exhausted, you can't keep going. So whatever you've got left in you, you have to push harder. You don't have everything, just feels harder because you do not have the energy and resources to push yourself the way you normally could. And then shocked, we have that same sort of similar effect, but now with a different flavor, and it's less brutal, right? This is a lighter sort of effect, because while it lasts, you still check. It's basically a coin flip. And on the coin flip, and so that action becomes harder because you have to push harder against the shock. Okay, right? That's an idea. Okay, so that's one path. So we've got. I'm gonna kind of just list them down here. Okay. So if I want to say, like, here we go, list of potential dice effects, potential mechanics effects. This does not belong here, but I'm just using this as scratch space right now. So we've got add, remove dice to rolls. Increase cost to risk dice. Add, remove resonance to rolls. Okay, so the first one is increase cost to risk dice. So how about a poison thing? Like basically bleed dice. Right? So that works for like poison, that works for like starving, that works for all sorts of things. Another good one might be some effect that reduces the amount of dice you can risk. It's not. Yeah, I was thinking that. I was thinking something that like lock. Gotta lock dice. Effect that prevents you from spending above X amount of dice. Oh, sorry, from risking. So that one's less serious than a full-on bleed or remove. I just also just like remove dice straight up. Take dice away from a character's connection pool. And of course stuff like, you know, cause discords, yes, but that's just you know, that's a snake eating its own tail there. But you know, might as well mention it that one of the effects of a discord might be that it can cause additional discords. So you know, so yes. Well, actually, no. We're doing good and bad. So add, remove, increase cost to risk dice, and how about also increase, decrease? Because we also got to think about good stuff, right? So increase or decrease the cost to risk dice. So something that basically said like every risk dice counts as 2, but it only costs you 1. That's also very cool, right? Add, remove, resonance, bleed dice. Okay, bleed or regen, I guess, for lack of a better term right now. Lose, gain 1 die from your connection pool. Let's add a little note at the end of this one. Probably should have a cap on the gain version, either on timing or amount of dice available to gain, or max amount of dice. And then lock dice. So there's no good version of locking dice, so that's fine. Cause or resolve, right? Certain things might resolve discords. Prevent power use. Prevent Numina, yeah. Prevent Numina usage is another thing that could happen. Like, while this condition remains, you lose access to your powers. Minor effect that unlocks dice isn't bad, or as an optional effect. I mean, I guess so, right? Because normally it's just like, well, yeah, but if dice are locked, it's because you're suffering from a discord that is locking your dice. And so the unlock would be in the resolution. So basically that would be like, you know, dice unlock when, you know, when this discord is resolved. So it depends on what caused the discord, I guess, right? But it's a counter or healing effect. Okay. So basically, lock. So yeah. So we're making it unlock dice. Yeah, we'll leave it at there because yeah, it is a good idea to have some kind of healing or preventive. Like if you're gonna have a negative status effect, you should have something in the game that can nullify that status effect. So yeah, that checks out. That checks out. Um, so remove add dice. I mean, that's then at that case it's just add remove dice from rolls. So actually, this one can be taken away because that's also just the first one. So don't need that. Prevent Numino usage, prevent or possibly empower. Empower, right? And then let's see, what else could we want? What other effects? Because right now I'm trying and specifically trying to focus on effects that would have an actual like unique mechanical thing. Because a lot of effects would just be effectively the quote-unquote enablers if we're using like Numenera terms or Cipher system terms, right? Certain like a power that allows you to change your appearance just lets you change your appearance. That's just what it does. But then within that, so it would also be like, oh, and it imposes a, at higher levels or whatever, it imposes a -3 dice penalty on rolls to see through your disguise, stuff like that. But it's just a basic. All right, so that means it just removes dice from rolls. That's the mechanical effect. Even though the flavor one specifically is, there's an actual reason, but the mechanics are there. So we don't need to add something like that to this because it's already covered under add remove dice. So I'm trying to think of any other unique mechanical interactions with the base roll system could be applied. So we can bleed or regen dice, we can lock or unlock dice, we can add or remove dice, we can increase or decrease the cost of risking dice. We already have resonance, which if granted allows, sorry, it's checking in on the cat, which granted allows you to risk dice without risk. And causing and resolving discords automatically covers injury and healing because injuries are nothing but discords. Anything else? I just want to take some time with this before I move on. Also, we're about to hit ads, so I think this is a good point to take that short break and while we think, and then we'll come back because we might be done. I don't think we're done. I don't think this is it. I'm sure we're missing something. We'll walk through it. We'll come up with a few sort of generic scenarios, maybe, of things that you would do in a game, and see if what we have here already effectively covers them. Yeah, I think that's a solid plan, and with that in mind, I think we're just going to yeah. What is with my words today? Anyway, I think we're just going to go ahead and take a quick pause for the ads, and we'll be right back. We're back. All right, I think ads are done. Hey, before we hop back into my system, I actually wanted to take a quick moment, to say hi to, by this point, friend of the channel, Victor, over on the YouTube comments. I did address Victor yesterday directly, and we are straight up having a conversation, and I absolutely love it. About what I thought was his frustration with my sort of approach to trying to make a blue mage and whatnot, and he responded in yesterday's in the most recent video. He said, "I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud. Not frustration. I just wanted to give a couple of tips to those approaching, for me, the best edition of the game. I fully understand if you don't jump at first to buy other products, but they are so stimulating and evocative for conversions. This edition is aware of this and gives you tools in the appendices to do so," which I'm excited for. Now, thank you for letting me know. Like, when we get back to the game, probably next Tuesday, I definitely want to take, hey kitty, I definitely want to take a look at those appendices and see what you're talking about there, because that's cool. And look, I'm not opposed to third edition at all. Like I said, I'm just right now focusing on just Essence, because it's what I have, and I just want to see what the game in and of itself, without going into third edition, just presents me with. Like, how much can I get away with before I really have to go into third edition. But other than that, yeah, no, I think we are friends now. I think we are generally on the same page, and especially because, then a couple of hours later, I guess, when he caught up to the point of the stream where I was talking about how sucky the advanced system, the system for advancement in Exalted is. I hated it. And he replied, and yeah, the advanced system is awful. You know what? I think Victor and I are friends now. So Victor, thanks so much. If you see this one as well, thanks so much for commenting. I love it. I appreciate it. And yeah, no, like I do intend to check out third edition eventually. I definitely will, because what I've seen definitely has me interested. But again, right now I'm deep diving specifically into Essence. I just want to see just what this one has to offer me before I branch out. But it's good to know that, like, it's sort of in a general note, like, if you like what you see here, you're probably gonna love the full, the quote unquote, full version, if you will, which is kind of the vibe I'm getting. And overall, I've been very positive and Exalted. Even a lot of the things that were like, what's going on here, I was like, okay, I get it now, and I've moved on with. And the things that are bad are bad, and apparently I'm not the only one that thinks so. So yeah, hey, we made a friend. Look at that. It is possible. They always say don't read the comments, but turns out you can actually have productive conversations with people. Maybe not directly in the comments, because I haven't replied back. It's so weird. I feel, even though it's my own comment section, I feel kind of weird and shy about replying back. But I have no problem, like, going on stream and talking about it. Hi, sweetheart. Hi, kitty. Why are we biting me? Why are we biting me? Because it is biting time? Is it biting time? It might be. It might be. What is it, girl? What is it? Why are we angry? Why are we? We're not angry. We're a little angry. Yep, there we go. There's the bities. Honey, it's way too early, and you do have food. You're just not eating it. Look. You see that? Look at that. That's food in your bowl, sweetheart. You've also got so many kibbles. Look at that. You can just eat more kibbles. She really wants her wet food, is the thing. But look, I opened up a new box of her wet food, and I think it doesn't smell off, doesn't look off, it's not expired or anything, but she's kind of giving, I don't know why cats are like this. Occasionally they'll be like, no, but it smells exactly like it always has. No, not today. And also, I will not give you a moment's rest until you give me what I do want. This is what you want. No, not today. So what do you want? What I had yesterday. That is what you had yesterday. No. Cats. Love them. All right. So anyway, we made a friend. We made a friend on YouTube, is what I'm saying. All right. So I usually lie about the things that I'm going to do during the ad breaks, right? I usually say, like, I'm going to do this, and then I don't. Because as I've stated before, during the ad breaks, I could probably just leave the camera on during ad breaks, and you would just see this, like, for like a minute 30, and then boom, I'm back and I'm alive again. Like that's just, it's not great. It's not great. You're not missing much during the ad breaks. But I did this time. I actually did kind of spend a little time looking, and this feels surprisingly comprehensive. So I want to test. I want to kind of do some top of my head testing on how this would work. Like, what are the things we would do, and how would we resolve these things in or out of combat, right? So let's say, in chat, feel free to toss a suggestion, right? If you were playing in this game or any other, right? You're playing a tabletop RPG. You're off on an adventure. You've got undefined magical powers. Feel free to throw them in the description of what you're doing, and then tell me what you would do, and then we'll see if we can figure out how we would do this in the game as it stands, and if we need to add or modify anything in the game to sort of make that happen. Because some things are obvious, right? Some things are, a lot of the simple stuff is already covered, right? We have a basic action system, and you have your aptitudes, and you have your equipment, and you have your bonuses from circumstances, and your minuses from circumstances, yada 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 yada. Hey Hemang, I see you over on YouTube. Hey man, long time no stream. No, I've been streaming. You just haven't seen me. But I hope you're having a wonderful day. And thank you as always for the well wishes. I really appreciate you stopping by and saying hello. Yes, we're having a wonderful one. So it's the day after Thanksgiving here in the US, and I'm just vibing and chilling, and as usual, working on my game and trying to figure out some rules for this game that I'm working on. But as always, Aman, thank you so much, buddy. All right, so let's see here. What else could we add? Okay, let's say a monster has, no, let's not think about monsters right now, actually. Let's focus on what players would be able to do. Armor. I think, and I don't have any rules for it yet, actually. I don't have any rules for armor. Well, armor is an item. Okay, so this means we need to think about items. Give me a second. Open items and gear. Okay, so this needs to be completely rewritten. This, I think, we no longer say. Let's see what we've got here right now. Seeker's Call is not a game that's overly concerned with inventory management. You can generally assume that your characters are carrying or can, get easy access to anything that a well-prepared traveler or adventurer would reasonably have. That said, there are some discounts that can provide special bonuses to rolls when used for certain actions. For example, a sturdy shovel might give a bonus to digging or peeling away a barrier, while a rope and hook could give a bonus to climbing. Particularly quiet shoes might give a bonus to sneaking silently, while a steel breastplate could give a bonus to rolls to resist injury, which is not entirely how this works. So I think the approach that I want to take to armor, and I've seen this in some other games, is that they are a renewable but limited resource. Like, armor can have, in fact, let's just go ahead and just do this. Let's do it. So let's do armor. Mimita, what is it, kitty? You want to go out? All right, folks, give me a second. Pause for just a second. I'm gonna actually go be right back just for a second so I can let the cat out, because she's being weird. It's a very my cat is being weird episode today. So bear with me while I let the cat out of the room. I'll be right back. Hi, nerds. Hi. So I managed to set my cat free. She is no longer trapped in the room with me, and hopefully that will ease her concerns. But also what happened and why that break was longer than expected is because I then proceeded to immediately knock uh, my water over and just create a huge mess over on that side. And then I had to clean that up. I'm a grown man. I'm a grown man, ladies and gentlemen. Grown ass man. Anyway, now my cat is just wandering about the apartment and examining everything. So that's about as much peace as we're all gonna get today. Anyway, yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, folks. I just had to take care of that. Anyway, so armor. So the approach that I want to take to armor is a limited but renewable resource. And I've seen this on some other games. I'm completely flaking on which ones they are now, though I think Shadow Dark does this, or some variation of it. Ooh, that was a nat 20. Which is that your armor effectively takes up to X amount of hits for you per battle. And then it's done protecting you for that battle. And then the next round, the next fight, the next combat, it's back to full, and again will take X amount of hits, right? Yeah, exactly. Like I've seen it. I think Shadow Dark did it, but some others do, and I like that approach. I kind of like that approach because there isn't really there's nothing like an armor class or anything, and in fact, there's nothing like monsters do not attack you, right? So like in combat, yeah, draw steel does similar. Yeah. So there's there's like I said, this is not new. This is like a best designer steel. This is not a complete. None of this is original, right? We're just adapting what works right and making it fit here. So when we look at like the stone ogres, right? Right. So the way combat effectively works right now, and I do need to rewrite this whole part for combat, right? Is that hmm, actually, yeah. So let's think about this. Um, because we've got the stone ogre as an example, right? Because the challenge of an enemy is how many dice that enemy is going to take away from the combat roll. That's the first thing. And then enemies will have tricks. Ooh, here's an idea, and this is something that we're kind of stealing from Exalted. We just saw this, which is okay. So enemies already affect like you have your combat roll, right? You have the combat roll. And you know what? This one actually, I'm going to go ahead and this is going to be weird. It's going to be weird because I don't have my usual cover up, right? But I need some d6s. Where are my d6s? They are over there. Give me a second. Let me go walk and get some. Is this where my d6s are? Are you the bag with the d6s? No, you've got the d10s though. You might have d6s. All right, let's just bring my 2 big bags of dice over. And then let's go ahead and hide this. All right, so this is not the best view, alas. You can see you're getting a peek behind the there we go, a peek behind the scenes at behind the curtain. But I just want to have some physical dice we can look at here. All right, so combat begins, and these are fate dice. These are definitely fate dice, not you know what? There we go. Give you all of you. See, those are fate dice. Those are all fate dice. Are the rest of my d6s here, or are they in my other dice bag? I feel like all my other d6s are probably. Yeah, I feel like my d6s are in the other bag. So let's do this one. There we go. Let's see. Take the tentacles out of the way. Yeah, here we go. We got some d6s and a whole bunch of d10s. And all right, let's grab a bunch of d6s out so we can play with them here. No, that's the fate dice. Damn it. Yeah, d6, d6, d6. All right. So that's probably more than enough, more than all the d6s that we're going to get. No, that's a crazy d6. That's not a. That's just a chonker. We'll just put it out there so it'll give us some heft. Anyway, let's put the chonker off to the side. So combat has begun, right? Your combat roll is 1 die. That's what it starts with. And you could, as a party right now, decide, fuck it, we ball, roll that dice. That's a 6. That was not a successful combat. You suck. Everybody at the party is dead. That's still, everybody's party is dead most of the time. Just everybody in the party is dead all the time. I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm just killing part. There we go. Finally, you want to fight. So that's not normally how you're gonna want to play this, right? You're gonna want to do more, because otherwise, a 1 in 6 chance of winning any given fight is not great. So, you as players do the thing. And you go, okay, cool. So we want to add dice to our combat pool so we can win this fight. So I, the bulwark, will blah, 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 blah. I'm going to kind of just skip over right now. They did a thing. They made a roll, and they got 2 hits on that roll. So they added 2 dice, right? Because that is what we have in the rules, if I remember correctly. The combat roll. The initial pool may not be risked. Initial dice, instead the characters can add dice by making action rolls during combat. Each player is to describe what the character is doing. If the roll is a success, apply the effects of that roll to the character and enemies. Then add 1 dice to the combat pool. If the action roll has multiple hits, more than a single 1 on the dice, add an additional dice to the combat pool for each hit after the first. So the bulwark did a thing and added 2 dice to the combat pool. Cool. And then the crafter, through one of his potions, got an amazing roll and added 3 more dice to the combat pool. Now we've got a combat pool of 6 dice. This is feeling a lot more comfortable. And so now our characters might go like, all right, cool, let's go. Let's finish this fight. We roll, and we got a single 1. That's all we needed. Once you hit 6 dice, you're like, all right, cool. So it's a solid chance I'm going to get that because it's 1 through 6. I got 6 dice. One of them has to be a 1. Of course it doesn't, but but cool, we won that fight. So resolved. Now we do the resolution. But had the dice not been kind to us, had we rolled, okay, we got a 1 again. Again, I guess look at all those 6s. This would have been a good roll in any other system. Let me try that again. Okay, there we go. So that's a roll with no 1s. So both the bulwark and the crafter did their thing, and then they took a chance. And you can keep going. But now I'm thinking, okay, what about injury risk? So the actions that people are taking so they can add dice to the combat pool may have their own consequences, right? So failed rolls, they are their own beast, right? So somebody who is whatever action you're taking in combat, right? It resolves in and of itself. So whatever effects or anything within the combat roll happen before you start adding dice to the combat pool. Just the action roll itself happens, and that may involve injury on a failed roll. So that's one way. But do we want to have? I don't know if I want to have a specific rule. It might be an optional one. And actually, let me go ahead and kind of bring it up here. So I want to add. Okay, let's make this an optional one rule here. Okay, so optional rule for now. Action rolls made as part of combat have an additional condition when failed. And then we would say, gain 1 injury discord. Maybe. So this is on the is a code. You're in a fight, you're trying a thing. If you fail the thing, you get hurt. Basic, but depends on the thing, right? So the reason I'm making this optional right now is because, how can I put this? Not every action done during a combat necessarily is going to have an injury risk, right? Depending, especially if it's described like, okay, with the things I said, there's no way my character would get hurt. Um, but then if you fail, then maybe it's on the storyteller, on the guide to just, well, you fail spectacularly enough that you do get hurt, right? It is combat and things are out of your control and it is risky. So that's one option. The other option is that it's going to depend on the enemy, right? For example, stone ogres specifically say that they do this, but there's a role to it. So basically, ogres have this ability because they are lobbing stones and boulders. So by default, all action rolls suffer -1 die when you're fighting one. That's actually generally injury, but situationally not, right? And that's why I'm thinking like it might just be, technically it's always situational. It's just going to be that most enemies have a default like something like this, where if the action roll fails, then you gain an injury. If your action roll against the enemy fails, but in this case it's a chance. Because here, okay, so the reason I don't want to make it automatic is, let's say you're fighting a stone ogre and 2 goblins, whatever, sure. And the goblins, they don't have maybe they have the same ability. So if we did the default of like, so I as the bulwark or whatever, right? I rush in and I take an action and I roll my dice and I fail. Right? I did the thing, boop, 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 not a single one. I failed that roll. An auto thing would be like, well, I got hurt. And, you know, use the guide can describe how exactly, or you as a player also can describe how your character received that injury. Were you hit by an enemy? You trip and fall? Blah, 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 whatever. But if all enemies have the thing, the 1d6, and on a 1 you suffer an injury, right? Or something. And then this allows, like, some enemies might have a bigger threat range, right? So let's say, because the stone ogre, and then we would have to expand this. So stone ogre, when it's at a distance, this happens, right? And if you fail on what you're trying to do against it, you're going to roll a 1d6 and boom, okay, you didn't take any extra damage. You might roll a few times, something happens. But under 1, oh no, you know, one of those lob boulders hits you, you take an injury. In addition to whatever the failure was. But then maybe the goblins that are with it, they're close-up fighters, so they don't have any distance attacks. But when they are close up, when they are in range, maybe they have a threat range of 3. So then they would roll 3 dice, and not a single one was a 1, so you take no injuries. But there we go. So that one you get, and they, you know, like it's like if even a single one, extra hits. Actually, no, that would make them more dangerous, right? So maybe. Like, that's effectively a monster's attack power. And at that point, do we want to make it? Because 3 hits will take out a character, right? So at that point, I don't want to give the goblin necessarily 3 dice. Again, the chances of all 3 coming up once are pretty small. But I don't necessarily want to give an average goblin the chance to one-shot a character. So maybe 2 dice. There we go. You got 1 injury on that one. Oh, another injury. All right, these goblins are good fighters. There we go. That's no injury for the goblin. Because it's specifically the... Oh, well, actually, no. Or do we want to make the threat range rather than more dice? I'm nervous about that because so far we haven't been messing with the ranges except for very specific things like a 50-50 chance, which I'll say 4 to 6 is one thing, 1 to 3 is another, but specifically because we're effectively emulating a coin flip, right? We could replace that easily with a coin flip. Otherwise, the dice mechanic is always that it only succeeds on a specific number, which we have chosen to be the 1. the system would work just as well if we made it, explode on sixes if we wanted to. Um, and if the feel is weird, we can always change that. But it's still like a specific. You always have to hit that one specific number. These are not D10s. I don't want to increase the range that much because you don't have that much wiggle room. But if we do the range here, so we would say like, oh, this ogre only hits on a 1 and a 1d6, but maybe the goblins have a 50-50 chance to hit you, right? So they would hit on a 1 to 3 and a 4 to 6 is a miss, or they might hit on a 1 and 2, or they might hit only on a 1. But at that point, we're introducing something that doesn't exist elsewhere in the game, and I'm nervous about that. So with that in mind, it's ad time again. So I'm gonna be right back. And then we'll figure this out on the other side of the ad break. Bear with me. Be right back. All right, we're back. We're back. So let's see here. Okay. I'm leaning strongly towards damage not being automatic on a combat action roll. I'm leaning towards letting enemies and or specific discourse or challenges be the ones that have a chance to inflict damage. It's still tied. Not even on failed rolls. Like, actually, that gives us more range. Because you can have relatively low-level monsters like the Stone Ogre. So you could have a whole range. Because okay, so here's my concerns. All right, so if while one of them, right, increasing the rolled range on a single die, is kind of a break in how the system is otherwise run, we already do have some examples of rolling a d6 but looking at numbers other than a 1, right? We have examples of that in like, the 50-50 rolls and whatnot. Because I don't like the idea of giving a goblin 3 dice and potentially having them, well, that definitely was not a one-shot, potentially having them one-shot a character, right? But a goblin with a 50-50 chance of hurting you if you fail your roll, that's more reasonable. And that gives us more room. Because we can have monsters that only, like, for example, like that ogre. Oh, no. Oh, okay, that actually shouldn't do anything. Accidentally hit the add button, but the add button is disabled at the moment. But let's say, for example, you could have monsters like the ogre there, who is meant to be relatively weak despite the challenge rating. He's challenging because he's throwing rocks. But oh, there goes the dice. But and so he will only hurt you as written right now. Actually, I would need to rewrite this because what happens when you get close, right? But as written right now, during combat, you're going to fight this thing. You're adding dice to your combat roll, so you're making action rolls to improve your combat roll eventually. And if you fail those action rolls, then... and here's the thing. So if an action roll fails during combat against the ogre, and it would not normally incur an injury. So I was already thinking on that certain things might incur injuries automatically. But I think no. If an action roll fails during combat against an ogre, and just remove this part here, because this wouldn't happen. Oops. Sorry, let me just a second. So remove this part. It's just like, boom. If an action roll fails during combat against the ogre, roll 1d6. On a 1, the character suffers for 1 injury discord as they are struck by a flying rock thrown by the ogre. Cool. Cool. And then you would have a different monster that would go like, hey, this same thing, but roll 1d6 on a 1 or 2. The character suffers. A 1, 2, or 3. A 1, 2, 3, 4. So the more dangerous the monster, right, the bigger the range in which it inflicts an injury if you fail. And really dangerous monsters are going, I could see so here's the other mechanic, right? I've been getting around to this. The other mechanic that I'm thinking is to make characters buy off tricks. So a thing that your character could do in combat specifically, do we want to make it specific or do we want to make it extra hits? So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking your character, and this is not the combat roll. The combat roll always just comes down to, do you have at least a single one? Fight is over and you were victorious. Loot the bodies. But the action rolls during combat. So I've got an action roll. I'm making the action roll. And it doesn't matter what the action roll is for this example, right? I made my action roll. Let's say this is what I roll. These are the dice I roll. Grab them, I roll them. I got a 1. So this does nothing for my example. But I got the one success on my action roll. So let's say if this was my combat pool of just 1 die, then we get to add 1 die to your combat pool, and that's it. That's the end of my action for the moment. And if I had failed, then maybe if I'm fighting that ogre, that ogre here, then then I would roll another 1d6. Oh, god damn it! Roll another 1d6. Okay, cool, a 3. So I didn't get hit by a rock despite having failed that roll. Cool, Dave, what are you doing, right? But if I had made that roll, nope, that's a bad roll. Let's try and get one where we have multiple ones. Wow, I am rolling. You see what I mean? You see what I mean? That even with a bunch of dice, like this, like you really want to this part of it. You're gonna want to increase your dice pool as much as possible to increase your chances of winning. There we go. That's, oh wow, that's an amazing roll. But on the other hand, you can have rolls like this. Holy shit! So that's 4 hits, right? So, and this isn't the combat roll. You didn't win combat. This was your action roll. Let's remember that. So you did your action roll. This first hit, whatever you were doing happens, right? So if you were using a Numina or whatever, then its effect happens, so we resolve that. But now you've got 4 extra hits. Now, by default, what you would do is the first hit, besides doing the action, automatically adds 1 success to the combat pool. You could, and it's probably a good idea in most cases, to go ahead and put those other 4 dice into that combat pool. So now the combat pool is 6, and that's just one character. Like, that was an incredible combat action. Whatever I did in that was amazing, apparently. But another option you could have is you could spend these dice to buy off tricks. So basically, if we have multiple enemies and enemies have multiple tricks, not all enemies would have multiple tricks, but some would. And I'm thinking most enemies should have tricks of some kind. But instead of going into the combat, or you might say like, okay, you know what? 2 of these dice are going into the combat pool, and I'm going to spend 1 of these dice to effectively counteract the boulder thrower trick from that ogre, right? We go here. Right, this trick, the boulder thrower thing, like I'm spending this dice, doesn't go into the combat pool, but it gets effectively spent, that hit, that success, to nullify this. And, you know, say how you do it, right? But it happens. And then you still have one that can go back into, or let's say those goblins also have a trick of their own of some kind, then I can spend this other dice to, instead of going to the combat pool, to nullify the goblin's trick for this combat, basically. So I think that also would add a level of strategy, right? Because we got again. Let's kind of go here. So we got the Kapu at 1. We got all these successes, and so we added 2, boop boop, and that's for the combat pool. We add the 1 success. Actually, sorry, this is combat pool. This is what we rolled. These are all the ones that we have. Here we go. So the first success always just goes to the combat pool, in addition to just being a successful action. Then the other 4 hits, that's where we go. And so we would go, I'm going to put 2 of these hits into the combat pool. I'm going to spend 1 of the hits to cancel the Boulder Ogre's trick. I'm going to spend another hit to cancel the one of the Goblin's tricks. So now those things don't happen. So now for the rest of this combat, because we spent those hits, the enemy, the ogre is effectively unable, like this is no longer an effect, right? And we can even scale that further so that, again, more powerful, more challenging monsters might require, you know, we might have a trick that says like this trick costs 2 hits to counteract. Something like that, for really, again, if you're fighting a fucking dragon and you want to make this a challenge, then these are all the ways that you can make this challenging. For example, the dragon might, if you fail an action roll, then on a 1 through 5, you take an injury. Or possibly even something like this, you know, like auto injury, like, you know, like simply like this monster causes 1 injury to any character that makes an action roll in this combat. Like that's it's just thrashing about, it's a dragon, there's fire everywhere. And in addition to that, add in like, and if you fail, then roll a 1d6 1 through 5, take an injury in addition to that, and then whatever other tricks a dragon would have. And so in a fight like that, your focus as a party, as an expedition, is what it's called in this game. Why is this dice ever so slightly smaller than the other ones? This one's ever so slightly, actually no, it's pretty much the same size. ADHD, it's a hell of a thing. But in that kind of combat, then the expedition's focus becomes take out the tricks, right? Like lock it down. We're not causing damage. It's not about causing damage. You're trying to win the fight. Like you'll notice that there is nothing here about necessarily taking an enemy out. There is canceling out tricks, which is about as close as it's going to get. So you're not doing damage directly, but canceling a trick could be flavored as, you know, I stab my blade into the stone ogre, and, you know, it loses its use of 1 arm, and therefore it can't keep throwing the boulders around. That was the hit. That's what I used the hit for in that action, for example. You know, be imaginative. But the idea is that against that dragon that I was talking about, with all those abilities that are causing damage, like your first focus has to be, all right, let's blunt those nails. Let's break those claws. Let's break those teeth. Let's turn off those tricks. Unless somehow we're able to get like 10 plus dice for your combat pool real quick. Your focus is going to be as much as possible, and so that's where Bulwark's abilities would come in to take hits for others. In fact, with this in mind, let's kind of go back here and see Bulwark. There we go. Let's look at the Bulwark stuff and see how it fits, because we wrote all this long before locking down and thinking more on combat. So let's see. Diamond Heart, Bulwarks receive resonance on all rolls regarding resisting damage or overcoming exhaustion. Always active, no cost. So additionally, all bulwarks can handle an additional major injury, thus taking the additional maximum 4 major injuries before dying at the end of a scene. Okay, so we've got armor. Do we have some kind of soak? Because this ability implies we do. This ability implies that you can do an action roll to effectively soak damage. So if that's the case, let's add a little note here about damage, injury, and healing. This is typical damage to your character. Each character has a knockout rating. If you reach as many active injuries as your knockout rating during a combat, and you are fittingly enough knocked out, this may mean different things depending on the source of damage. Yada yada. Before we go, characters can attempt to soak. We're going to call it soak for now. We might change that term. We're just getting stuff down that works. Hey, PB, welcome in, friend. Welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're recovering from yesterday's the turkening, if you will. And that you had a lovely night last night. I had a wonderful time hanging out on your stream last night. I sorry that I had to call it an early night, but the sleepies just hit me all of a sudden. So also, holy shit, I love the little dancing gummy bear. That is amazing, especially on ground control. Ground control kind of shows the icons bigger than they show up on the little Twitch thing. So that's a very detailed dancing gummy bear. I freaking love it. All right, so characters can attempt to soak. We're gonna call it soak for now. An injury by making an action roll. Each make. Thank you. It's been a nice chill start today. Good. I'm glad to hear it. It's kind of a casual. I mean, US, right? Just it is what it is. It's both casual and lazy, and at the same time incredibly stressful and crazy for depending on which side of the literal aisle you fall on, I guess. So I'm very glad, for example, that right now I'm not working retail. Not an impossibility that before 2025 is over, I may yet end up working retail again, because it turns out my landlord still wants me to pay my rent. Fucked up if true. All right, so let's see. So I mean, there's nothing special about soak action rolls because you don't have stats in this game, right? You don't really have, there's no stamina stat. But if you have an aptitude that, like a tough aptitude or whatever, then you would be able to add that to your soak roll, to your action roll. So we're just going to say for now, any hits on that roll will reduce incoming injuries on a 1-to-1 basis. Right? It's the holidays. Okay, so now that we know that there's you can make a basic, now that we've established that, we can go back to the bulwark, and now that ability makes more sense that then bulwarks have resonance on those rolls. Cool. So that makes a little bit better sense. And then delves, they have that ability within the delve. And again, this is something that I think I need to double check with the other ones. Although I think we did see that, and this is something that we want to have for all of the different seekers, all the different callings within the game, that they're all going to have a basic ability that's always active even when they're outside of a delve, and then they're going to have a basic ability that is more powerful but is only usable when they're within a delve. For example, the bulwarks is that ability to sort of push through. And hey, I had created an exhausted Discord, which I now have. Look at that, exhausted 3 are full rest. Okay, so let's actually wait. Give me a second. Let me fix this here. Let's actually create a Discord, because I think I wrote this back before I had a call out for it. So 80, yep, Discord. Discord. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and just steal this. Oh, actually, no. Discord, we really only need this. Actually, wait. No. I have an unofficial exhaustion Discord. I created it. This was actually better. Where is it? Here we go. Exhausted. Let's grab this. There we go. Copy. And go back here. Fix that real quick. Nope. Combat. Nope. Go here. There we go. So basically, the Bulwark gets to do this. They can push themselves. So you take the following Discord. You take the exhausted Discord. While the character is exhausted, anytime they risk dice on action roll, they must spend twice the amount of dice risked. If risking 1 die, the player must spend 2. If risking 4 dice, the player must spend 8. Resolution exhaustion results when the character has had a full day and night's rest and food. And in exchange, they automatically pass their next action roll regarding any physical endeavor, use of strength, resistance, or endurance. This applies even if the action being attempted would normally be beyond the limits of normal human ability or otherwise impossible for the Bulwark to achieve. For example, lifting several tons, holding up a collapsing passageway, withstanding extreme conditions, punching through a wall into the chamber beyond, etc. The guide is final colonies of this ability. As general rules, if it doesn't break the game, let them do it. I'm going to add a little note to it, because now that we have rolls where the amount of hits matter, I'm going to add, if the effect of the action is, I don't want to say is affected by, but sure, is affected, if the action takes extra hits into account, assume the Bulwarks push through rolled 4 hits. There we go. Let's see. Wait, I tuned in earlier and you were asking about burn, but as you talked through my options, my mind went down the game design rabbit, and I ended up on the other side with my lunch eaten and my game's rules figured out. Thank you for getting my scattered brain focus. Well, I'm glad my attempts to finish a game helped you make more progress in yours. That's actually awesome. I mean, that's part of the fun, right? That's part of the reason why I'm doing this out in the open. So, you know, for that back and forth of inspiration. So I'm actually really pleased for that. All right, so there we go. So now we got a better idea of what this works. And let's look at the other abilities real quick. So Stronger, activating this Numina grants +3 in resonance on your next roll for feats of strength. Solid. Pushback, Bulwark with this Numina is invaluable when an expedition, blah, blah. By focusing their power outward, they can create a momentary but intense push that roughly shoves any creature's objects or elements such as dust or dirt in the air that the Bulwark does not want, up to 20 feet or 6 meters away from them in a hemisphere around themselves. Items and creatures that the Bulwark does not wish to affect, such as their expedition mates, are unaffected. The push itself does not inflict damage, but is powerful enough to cause living beings that crash into walls or large objects a minor injury. This force lasts only for about 6 seconds, so the Bulwark may choose to extend the effect by spending 1 more connection for another 6 seconds, for as long as they have remaining connection to spend. So this is that you know, movie/anime effect where, like, you know, you're holding you're holding the force field, and you keep having to make the effort round after round, and that's all you're doing as the monsters try. Like, that's the idea behind that. Now, with that in mind, how would we resolve that? So this is, again, let's take a quick step back, right, on combat. Like, this is, so you do a pushback as part of combat, right? Because again, combat resolution is just the combat roll. It's just that final roll that determines, did you win or did you lose? But as your action, as a Bulwark in this combat, you're like, cool, I want to use pushback. Fuck yeah. Let's say you're still fighting that ogre and those 2 goblins, right? So what's that going to do? Well, that's going to be up to the guide, isn't it? Right? Because how I would call this is, and I think we need to write this down, which is why I'm kind of talking it out first. Because in that specific situation, the player might reasonably ask, okay, so I've got the push. I'm doing the pushback. It lasts for 6 seconds, right? So it's a solid amount of time, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? That's a little chunk of time, a reasonable one. During those 6 seconds, a lot of stuff happens in D&D. That's a round, right? So they may ask, okay, during those 6 seconds that I'm pushing them away, can the ogre, who we've established has his boulder thrower trick, and assuming the boulder thrower trick hasn't been already canceled out by somebody else's hits spent on combat, right? The player might reasonably ask, hey, is the stone ogre still able to hurl boulders at us when I've got my bulwark push away shield up? And I, as a guide, would probably say, no, you're right. They're bouncing off of that push. They're bouncing off of that shield, effectively. Except some GMs might interpret this as it's called pushback. It specifically says that you're pushing out of force. But at the same time, you can say that a sustained force is a force field, effectively. So yeah, this is a force field, effectively. It's just not defined as such, but if you keep it up, it's effectively a force field. So yeah, as a guide, I would probably rule that. But that's not something that's specifically spelled out in the rules, which is the part that I'm worried about. Right? Is that I've just described obvious enough that I shouldn't necessarily need to spell it out in the rules? Or does it not need to be spelled out in the rules? Should I say that, hey, while this pushback is maintained, enemy abilities, enemy tricks that involve, physical distance attacks will also be prevented by pushback. Might be an option. In fact, you know what? First of all, again, adds very soon. Yeah, you should always spell it on the. It's true. It's just I just wanted to know if that interaction was obvious, and I don't think it's obvious enough. So yeah, before we go into ads, let's just kind of add a quick line here that says, while the pushback ability remains active, enemies and their tricks cannot enter the area of the effect. There we go. Cannot enter the area of the effect. Like, I could add in some kind of like powerful enough monsters can do that. But again, I really want to avoid monsters rolling. I'm sort of a fan of that sort of cipher system thing where the GM doesn't really roll. So I don't want to have the monster rolling to overcome the push. But also I don't want to necessarily force players to make too many rolls, because rolls in this game can be risky, can be dangerous. Making a character roll carries with it a certain amount of risk, especially if they're investing dice and they're investing connection from their pool. So I don't know if I want to make it so that, like, can I enter the effect unless the bulwark fails an action roll. But at that point, you're already spending, like, this is the thing, you're spending points, you're spending connection. Like, there's a cost to this ability. So I'm okay. And again, I want your characters and your players, the characters, to be powerful and capable, right? When you use your ability, I was mentioning this yesterday, right? The class fantasy, right? Like, the class fantasy of a bulwark is specifically that you are this mountain, you are resistant, you are protective, you are the shield, you are the aegis. So an ability that just does this, there's a cost. There's a cost. There's 2 connection that you have to spend. That's not nothing. And then for every round you want to maintain that, another connection you're spending. Like you can't maintain that for very long. Um, but yeah, I'm willing to, I'm willing to say like that's just it. It's just period. Like that super dragon that we talked about before, they cannot enter that area. They might have other abilities, right? They might have other abilities. If they collapse the roof above you, then your bulwark's going to run out of power sooner or later. Like I said, it doesn't make you invincible, but it does make it so that that bulwark's shielding ability fits into their legend, into that class fantasy. So I think I'll leave it at that. And with that, folks, as before, it is time to watch some ads because it is late stage capitalism day. So, folks, we'll be right back. All right, we're back. We're back, nerds. All right, let's see here. So let's keep going through these. Again, I'm just going through them to see if there's something that I'm missing from here, from combat, from specifically like these effects that abilities can do. Because I've already defined some abilities, I set up some abilities before I really locked down these systems. Was that the smartest move? Of course not. Of course not. Now we're retrofitting. Now we're going back. Did this stuff that I created before, does this still make sense? Maybe. Did it ever? Who knows? Let's find out together. So Strato Speed. Faster, activating this Numina, gains +3 in resonance on any rolls for moving, dodging, jumping, or falling. Okay, solid. And interval requires faster. Supposed quickly learn that while being quick is good, having those around you be able to keep up with you is even better. Activating this Numina and touching a companion grants them the effect of faster on their next roll. Importantly, this effect applies to all companions touching the bulwark at no additional connection cost. Go team. Again, class fantasy. I want you, like, if we gotta run across this thing. I'm not gonna make the bulwark make 6 separate action rolls to carry each of their party members across this this distance that they need to run at super high speed or whatever. Like, no, everybody hold hands, we're an expedition, we do this together. And now everybody is just speeding along as the bulwark does the thing. And again, I also want that to be like a vibe. I don't know if I succeed at all of them, but the bulwark in a weird sort of way exemplifies what I want from character classes in this game, in the sense that they have basic abilities that make them better and advanced abilities that allow them to make those around them better and give abilities to those around them, rather than necessarily just empowering themselves. Like, I generally want the advanced levels of powers to be stuff that empowers others. because I have a goddamn agenda, is what I have. And so with Shroud of Resilience, harder uses the Zuminalis the Bulwark to ignore one minor injury or prevent a set of minor injuries from becoming a major injury. This ability must be used at the moment of taking the injury and cannot be used to heal previously taken injuries, which that alone is wild for the Bulwarks. If you have that ability, anytime you would take an injury, which you already have the built-in ability that you can take more injuries than others, but also you can just spend a single die from your connection pool. Sure, connection die, you know, it's a resource, and it's a painful resource to spend sometimes, but no, one per injury, holy shit. Like, Bulwarks can take a goddamn beating. And then Aegis requires harder. The Zumina allows the Bulwark to grant a portion of the protective gift to a companion. The next time the target would receive any kind of injury, that damage is negated and the effect ends. This effect lasts until the next time the Bulwark sleeps or the target takes damage. As with Interval, this effect applies to all the companions touching the Bulwark at no additional cost. And yes, this does mean that if you start a delve at the beginning of the day by all doing the, like, you know, putting the hands on top of one another and go team, and the Bulwark activates Aegis at that moment, you can, for 2 cost, you're basically giving everyone in your party 1 free hit, like 1 free health level, effectively, for the same cost as just giving it to yourself. You see what I mean? There is no additional cost to giving it to everybody else. Just, are you making contact? Cool. Are you alone? You can still do it, same cost, right? But that's the idea. I want to be. What happened here? Give me a second, folks. My cable here is getting tangled. Getting absolutely tangled. There we go. But yeah, I want to encourage that. I want to encourage that the more powerful abilities are meant to be shared. So again, no changes needed to these. These are all fairly solid, and they're kind of self-explanatory in if you were to take, you know, during combat, right? They do what they do. Strata of Recovery, hand up. There's nothing as reassuring as having a Bulwark at your side at your side in a fight. By activating this Numina and touching the target, the Bulwark grants them a burst of invigorating and refreshing energy. The recipient of this Numina's effect can choose to either remove 1 minor discord or injury, or take a free +3 to their next action roll. Solid. Nothing crazy there. And then second wind, the more powerful one, high cost, 3. A Bulwark at their best is an inspiration to everyone around them. By activating this Numina, they are able to extend their gift to all their expedition members in the same scene, filling them with protective energy and buoying their spirits. Upon activation, all expedition members in a scene immediately clear 1 minor discord or injury from their sheets and receive 2 connection dice to add to their pools. I had forgotten how cool second wind is. Like, again, class fantasy. Come on, you're in the middle of a fight. We're running low on dice. Everybody's been banged up. We're still not ready to make that action roll. That fucking dragon. We've got a combat dice pool of 7 dice, and we know that's not going to be enough. And every time we take an action roll to hit this fucker, we're taking injuries. We're taking penalties, etc. Boom, Bulwark. I'm gonna spend my last 3 connection for a second wind. Boom, spend it. Your entire party, everybody clears 1 injury, everybody gets 2 connection dice, including yourself. So technically there's only a one cost for that, because you are getting 2 connection back right there. But yeah, like, that's just enough. It might be just enough to turn the tide of battle. It fits the definition of what a second wind is supposed to be. Honestly, I'm kind of proud of this one. I like this. And then Strata of Permanence. Okay, so Lockdown is the first one. Focused Bulwark is impossible to ignore. By activating this Numina, a Bulwark forces the target to pay attention only to them, preventing them from taking any actions that do not involve the Bulwark directly. While there's no additional connection cost associated with maintaining this effect, the Bulwark must maintain it by likewise keeping their actions focused on their target. If the Bulwark takes an action that does not involve their target, the effect immediately ends. Okay, so let's look at how this fits with combat right now. So, for example, we've got these ogres. So let's say the Bulwark uses Lockdown on the ogre, basically going, you motherfucker, you and me, you know, give him a full, like, Dolly Parton crossing the street on in that holiday movie, you know, the one. Cool, right? So you've locked down the ogre. Again, is it obvious, and I don't think it is, that the boulder thrower ability, now that Ogre is going to be using its trick only... Okay, so what we will want to do is go like, kind of add a line here. Do not involve the bulwark directly. This means any tricks the enemy may have will be solely used and focused on the bulwark for the duration of the effect. There we go. So now that we're spelling it out directly, that's a little bit more, I think that's a little bit better, because now that makes it clearer that if our bulwark is just going toe to toe with this ogre and has used lockdown on it, then now the ogre's trick of being a boulder thrower will not affect anyone else, which means other people, but will still affect the bulwark. Right now it's focused on the bulwark. So now you kind of assume, as a guide, you would describe that, you know, the ogre is just angry at the bulwark and is throwing rocks one after the other, but they're all aimed directly at that, taking heat off of the rest of the party, which means now the rest of the party doesn't get that -1 die penalty due to distraction. Again, really solid, really cool. The bulwark is there to prop the rest of their party up. Like, if you do this early in the fight, then all of a sudden everybody else's rolls are now better because they're not suffering from that penalty, and also they don't have that chance of taking that injury if they fail. I think with that addition of just making sure we specify the tricks, which, to be fair, I did not have there before because I literally made tricks up today. It's not a thing that our enemies had, I guess, until... No, I guess I had come up with this, but I hadn't really thought about it until today, so I'm calling today its birthday. God damn it. But yeah, okay, lockdown, I think, is locked down, if you will. Fulcrum, 3... Okay, so this is a big one. It requires lockdown, cost 3. In the chaos of battle or the wild savagery of an out-of-control delve, sometimes the only thing keeping an expedition from collapsing entirely is the steady, solid presence of a bulwark. When the bulwark activates Fulcrum, they become the strong... I'll make this one like... Become the strong, immovable center of their group. Every volley they choose... Okay, so volleys are not... Every action that they choose to keep Fulcrum active, they must spend another 3 connection from their pool. Okay, cool. While Fulcrum is active, the bulwark can take no other action. So that's tricky. Because we don't really have a sort of rounds mechanism in combat, right? Players can just simply choose to keep making action rolls and taking actions in combat to add dice to the combat pool until the party, the expedition, feels comfortable. Okay, I think our combat pool is good enough that we can end this now. Like that's your goal in combat. But that means there's no back and forth, right? Like, monster damage from combat is reactive effectively. It's because it's the enemy. It's based on whatever the enemy's tricks are and the results of your rolls, of the player rolls. So it is reactive. And the players are always in full control of how long combat goes for, because they choose when to finish the roll, when to finish it. But there are no rounds. Because there is a risk with every roll, a single player in the group could keep saying, like, and then I do this, okay, roll it. Okay, and then I do this, okay, roll it. And just keep going until they're satisfied, right? And just each one of those rolls will probably come with a risk to that character, and potentially to the party. So, with that in mind, this ability is cool, but this part about it, like, how do we maintain it? Because it's expensive, right? And the idea is the final effect, let's skip over this part for the moment, because the point is that as a fulcrum, you basically become this center. This is all you can do. You have to focus on being the fulcrum, but while you do that, everyone else in your party can either during that combat, not that volley, combat, right? Combat receives resonance on their action, or rolls with +3 on their next action, or resolves one minor discord or injury for every volley slash round slash whatever. But since we don't, since we don't have that, then how do we, because we don't have that time measurement, and we technically don't have that for ages here, or for harder rather. No, sorry, not for harder, for push. Yeah, for pushback. Because again, okay, we did define how long it lasts, 6 seconds, right? Yes. But technically not a round. Like, characters could describe a combat lasting hours if they really wanted to, right? Just a long attrition. So I'm thinking of changing this to, because this is very similar to Fulcrum, right? There is similar in the sense that it is, while maintained, it keeps going. Pushback, if you're doing this, this is your action, right? You can't keep doing the pushback and do more things. So the Bulwark does kind of have a number of abilities that are just about like, boom, I place myself there, I am that immovable object, and what is my action? I continue to be that immovable object. I'm not going to require additional rolls from you to continue being the immovable object by default, right? I'm not going to make you activate pushback again or anything like that. But instead, then, what we can say is, maybe something along the lines of, okay, something along the lines of, once activated, once pushback is activated, the Bulwark may choose to continue applying its effect by spending one die, one connection, to, for each trick, each thing, each event, each ability. I need to work on the wording there. Right? With a caveat that if you stop, if you do anything else, then pushback has ended. So basically, you can go like, okay, so look at it from this sense, right? It's basically, I'm fighting the we're in combat with this ogre again. We're just gonna keep using the ogre. The Bulwark steps forward. They do the pushback. They're a low level Bulwark, but they do have pushback, and so they spend their 2 connections to activate the power. The Stone Ogre gets pushed back. Its boulders get pushed back for 6 seconds. There's shield, and because that happens, what happens next? So we saw that of course, as long as they have remaining against the pushback remains active. Enemies and their tricks cannot enter the area of effect. So while I'm doing that, this is not happening to people within this area. So you would say like, all right, where are your party members? Are they within this push circle? Then within that push circle, this stuff doesn't happen. Cool. How do we extend that to a second round is the question. Because I am hesitant to make somebody kind of keep track. Like, how do we define when it's time for the Bulwark to spend more? And I'm thinking something along the lines of, it's just when those tricks would come into effect. So for example, beginning a combat, Bulwark uses ability, counteracts the Stone Ogre's -1 die penalty, and the injuries from the boulder throwers because the stone ogre's tricks cannot penetrate the push field. And so by default, as you take the action, as you activate the power, that happens at that moment. So now that, the people that are in during that time, that happens. Somebody else now says, hey, now I take my action, I do whatever I'm doing in this combat to increase our chances. And I ask, hey, Bulwark, are you keeping your push up for this? And the Bulwark can choose to say yes or no, right? And if they say yes, then I go, cool. Other player, you don't have the -1 dice penalty. And if you fail this roll, you don't have to worry about rolling for damage because the Bulwark is spending his push to make that happen. Bulwark, because you chose to keep your push up for this action, you cannot take any additional actions now. Then the next guy in line goes like, hey, you know what? I'm going to run off to the side and I'm going to, you described that there was a giant barrel of, like whatever, ogre ale off to the side. I'm going to run off and with my axe, I'm going to stave in the side of that to try and get the ogre and goblin's attention by spilling, this ale all over. And go, cool, you're going to do that? Okay, that means you're going to run off. And normally, again, you're in combat with an ogre, so this would suffer this stuff. Hey, Bulwark, are you still keeping your push up? And Bulwark says yes or no. And let's say in this case, actually, no, because I want to do something else next round. Cool, no problem. Cool, so dude who was going to do that, make your roll, but now this stuff applies again. Bulwark, because you chose not to extend it, if you want to take an additional action, you can. Does that sound like a reasonable way to handle that when in a game where we don't really have rounds? I think it does, but how do I express that? How do I write that down other than just going like, all right, let me just listen to the recording of what I just rambled on and see if I can make that. But does the concept make sense? Like as a player, I'm curious. Chat, let me know. As potential players, if you were playing a Bulwark and that was the sort of the order of events, how would you have felt about that? That you have this ability. This ability allows you to effectively cancel out enemy abilities within a certain area, and you can keep that up for X amount. It costs you X amount, so you make a decision because you do have to spend a resource. You do have to, as it says here, spend one more connection each time. So at some point you might go like, no, I'm done spending connection on this. I want to do something else. It does kind of complicate things in that now the guide has to take that extra step of like checking in with the Bulwark each time, right? And there's going to be abilities that are like that for other characters as well, I suspect. But it's not the worst and should allow perception and knowledge checks and like, yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing, like combat, part of the reason why I'm making combat just a single roll is so that kind of like, it's a bit like what Fate wanted to do, and I'm not sure it necessarily achieved it, and I'm not sure I'm necessarily achieving it. All right, cool. I'm not the be all end all of game design. Let's be very clear here. All right, my opinion of my own game design abilities is pretty dismal. But I don't think this is bad. I think that's. It's not that different from other games, right? With like, you take something like D&D, which is actually much more complicated. There's even more things to keep track of. Like, are you, is your wizard concentrating? Are you in range of this? Are you undercover? Like, all this stuff. Are you flanking? Are you, are you moving? Attacks of opportunity? Like, we don't have that level of complexity here. What I did want, like something that again Fate did, is that they wanted you to. Create, right, advantages, create opportunities, create elements, create things in the combat scene that then either you or other players could then take advantage of and build off for their own action roles. So the idea is like you're setting up a whole bunch of advantages, and then combat ends with like one big roll in which you know use all these advantages, or several big rolls in which you use these advantages that you've created to then take down and damage the enemy. And the fun part about creating those advantages is that they didn't have to be direct combat roles. They gave somebody who was not a combatant the ability to affect combat by creating advantages that then the people who are direct damage dealers can use to defeat the enemy. And so I wanted something like that in this system, in which characters that are not combatants, because again, that's in this game, I don't want everybody necessarily to be a combatant. That's not as much. That's the sucky part about combat, right? Like, I'm making a game in which I'm hoping combat is not going to be players' first approach, right? But at the same time, it is a fantasy game. You will get into fights. We're creating a combat system, so it is hard to like how what's the word I'm looking for here? How abstracted away can I make the combat while still giving players the opportunity to do the cool things? There's a reason. Look, there's a reason that D&D is what it is. Because as slow and as plodding as combat in D&D can sometimes be, but there is, like, we've been playing war games for centuries, right? There is a level of fun and satisfaction in moving your little guys around and then rolling a handful of dice and seeing big number pop up and then knocking the bad guy figuring off to the side and going it does something, right? It does something to us at a primal monkey level. It is fun, and the game that I'm designing, well, here we are. We're designing combat abilities and systems and stuff. Like, your characters will get into fights with, fantasy monsters. But this is not a grim, dark game in which I am, describing every single sword thrust and mapping out, how much, how your character is exactly bleeding out. It's meant to be pretty abstracted. But I want to give players the ability to do things. And I'm hoping that the system as it stands will let them do that, because non-combatants can still take actions. And whatever those actions are, as long as they're successful, they will help with the combat roll. Okay, cool. So that's solid. That's solid. All right, so Fulcrum. So with that, I mean, I'm going to have to write this down for pushback, I think. I'm going to have to write down that additional. And we'll do that. We actually have to go to what's going to be the last ad break of the show very shortly. I'm not going to... Actually, no. Yeah, you know what? Let's do that. Let's just go to the next ad break. And I'm going to rewrite this during that ad break with the proper, like what we said, where I'm going to see if I can take a shot at rewriting this with the, hey, ask the bulwark each time. And see how much of a job I can do during the ads. Okay, sure. Let's go with that. All right, as always, we'll be right back. Okay, so to answer your question, and wait, am I back? Yes, I am. Okay, cool. To answer your question, I started. All right, PV, I started. I did not fully rewrite it, but look. If you look carefully, you can see that I removed. See, I reworded this. So the bulwark may choose to extend the effect by spending one more connection and sacrificing their action. So now, how do we word this? I want to say. So what are the concepts we're trying to communicate here, right? So, boop, 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 boop. So action as follows. If the bulwark has taken no additional action since activating pushback, and an enemy's trick may affect another seeker's roll during combat, spend one connection and apply the effects of pushback to that trick, which applies to while effect pushback enemies and their trick cannot enter the area of effect. It feels a little unwieldy, but I think it fits. Like if the bulwarks, so basically the bulwarks, once damn it, once the bulwark, god damn it, takes a different action other than maintain pushback, any further usage would require making an action roll and spending the 2 connection activation cost as normal. I guess, yeah, that'll do. I don't like it. It feels so wordy. This is probably going to need to be. What I need is an editor, but what I can't afford is an editor, especially a good one. The work editors do is witchcraft, much like artists. Like I live surrounded by witchcraft, as far as I'm concerned. It is all I have around me. All I see is pure witchcraft, as far as I'm concerned. Artists, witchcraft. Editors, witchcraft. Anything I can't do on my own, just witches. A witch did it. That's how I choose to live my life. They say to live your life surrounded by coders, witchcraft. Exactly. Look, I can do some coding. What I'm saying is I have a bit of training in the occult arts. Okay. We all have a little witch inside us, I think. I have my own training in certain branches of the occult arts, but the branches that allow you to create, especially visual art, are closed to me. Whatever character race my player picked apparently locked out those particular class options from my tree. Alas. Okay, so that's pushback. That's not the worst. All right. And then Fulcrum, we did this. So I Still Stand is basically like the wildest ability. We did give them ignition because I wanted them to have something they could use to do damage and not just protection stuff, right? But I Still Stand is their big one. Let me catch up on chat. My thoughts would be, what does this bulwark ability tell you what they can do out of combat? Does that have utility in other situations? I mean, yes, that's the thing. It does, right? Because the pushback is a physical push. Like, it does push off items and creatures the bulwark does not push to effect, up to 20 feet away from them in a hemisphere. So they're, like, outside of combat, it's just, yeah, just a telekinetic push effectively. And yeah, that may or may not come in handy and other stuff. So all of these so far have utility, like outside of combat. Even Aegis kind of lingers there, and any source of damage will be taken. Interval is just fast movement anytime. Second wind, kind of the same thing. Like this can be happening at any moment. Just everybody recovers. Lockdown is one of the few that is almost entirely combat focused. But even then, you could use this outside of combat. You know, like, hey, can I use lockdown to like just keep the guards' attention while the rest of the party sneaks in? Yeah, I'd say yeah. Just you get up in their face and kind of stare them down, and they can pay attention to no one but you. And you know, this might lead to some questionable scenes, right? We're like, hey, this guy is now, you know, ready to start a fight, or just questioning what are you doing or whatever. You know, like there will be role play, which is kind of the point of the game, right? But it's still something it could be done. It could serve a purpose outside of game. Fulcrum. So Fulcrum can also honestly be useful outside of combat. I mean, it says in the chaos of battle or the wild savagery of an out of control delve, right? So that's the thing. Like if you were, because the Fulcrum, while it calls you the strong, immovable center of the group, can take no other action other than to move. Adding this makes it so that now this is useful outside of combat. Are we running? Why are you running? If we are running, right, the group as a whole is running, and it's not so much about speed. Look, there's a whole bunch of those goddamn stone ogres, and they're all throwing boulders at you. We need to run. We need to get out of here. And you know, speed helps, but also you got to dodge. You got to do so. Becoming a fulcrum at that point, that would be pretty cool for the party. Because you just become that focus. You become like, everybody follow me, follow my steps, move as I do, let's go. You know, just keep your eyes on me. Don't worry about anything else. Focus on me. Let's go. And you all start running. So while Fulcrum is active, then the rest of your party can either receive resonance or roll with +3s or resolve discords or injuries as they run, as needed, depending on whatever the hell they're doing to run. So yeah, this is useful outside of combat. It can be useful in all sorts of situations. And then finally, I Still Stand, right? That's their big ability that just goes full metaphysical, really. Which is cost you 4 connections, a big one. It requires Fulcrum before you can use it. At the height of their power, bulwarks stand as solid as mountains, as undeniable as death, and as immovable as destiny. This Numina can only be used once per day, and it allows the bulwark to plant themselves in opposition to any... Why is there 2 2s? To any one thing, event, or action. By spending the connection cost and planting their feet on the ground, the bulwark's mere presence acts as an absolute denial of something. Other things can happen, sure, but not the one that the bulwark has set themselves in opposition to. The enemy shall not pass. The wall will not fall. Your charge will not die. Not today. Not while I still stand. So the mechanics on that: when the bulwark activates its Numina, it counts as the entirety of their current action. The bulwark defines one single event that either just happened or that could happen shortly. The event is prevented from happening or affecting the game. While the bulwark stands, they can take no other action than speak and maintain the certainty of their resolve. So as written, you spend 4, and you can do nothing else. But you spend your 4 connection, and that thing that you are opposed to also does not have no roll, no nothing. It's automatic. You can do nothing else. So it does veer close to the whole, like, you know, you're getting effectively taken out of combat. That said, the bulwarks, many of the bulwark's abilities are about maintaining, right? So it's not that different from others, and it's always, the bulwark always has the choice to end his stand at any moment. But I don't think it needs to be changed. It feels self-explanatory. It is a higher level one, so you know there is some wiggle room. Like it's meant to be metaphysical. That's why the examples are up to and including like, you know, like outside of combat, right? Like it's something like, no, so long as I stand, watch, you will not die, right? That sort of thing. So I think this one can stay as it is. I don't think it needs any changes based on the new combat system. And to be fair, Phoenix, like the reason we're going back right now in part is, you know, we are focusing on combat, right? Because we've been working on the combat system here, and I want to make sure that the abilities that our characters have still work within the new sort of combat model that we have now, right? And so now we've got abilities that might do some damage. So let's see how those fit as well. And we're down to our last 15 minutes of today's stream, by the way, folks. Thank you, as always, for hanging out with me. We've got a surprising amount of work done today. We really have, like, you know, gotten some additional details done on combat. We've rewritten and re-added a few things. We're getting a better grip on how we want this game to run. I'm happy with the work we've done today, folks. Happy with what we've done today. Let's see. So strata of ignition. So scorched grip is the first one, costs 1 connection. By calling upon the first stratum of ignition, the bulwark summons the simmering heat of magma to their fists, allowing them to channel the burning heat of the earth itself into each strike. Upon activation, the bulwark's attacks gain a level 1 aptitude until end of combat. In addition, the bulwark's touch can set flammable substances and surfaces on power. Perfect. I was worried that I had set this up to like, oh, it does extra damage, because again, creatures don't necessarily have hit points. They have a challenge and they have tricks, and you use actions to cancel out their tricks. That is effectively how you deal damage to them, right? So this just gives you a level 1 aptitude. It basically just means I turn on, and it's until the end of combat. So this is an easy peasy power that a bulwark can do, where they basically just like smash their fists together. Fists start to glow with the heat of magma. For the rest of the fight, for the rest of combat, they have a level 1 aptitude, you know, whenever they're punching, whenever they're attacking. So just an extra die. Easy peasy, beautiful, no worries. It's spend 1 die to have that die ready for you for all your rolls for that action at no extra cost. I think it's cool. I think it's simple. I like it. It can stay the way it is. Fire break, that costs you 2. One of the bulwarks fuse stratum that work at a distance. Calling upon this power allows the bulwark to cause an explosion of heat and rocks to appear between someone or something that they are trying to protect from damage and the source of that damage. The bulwark picks one person or thing to designate as their target. The burst of heated stone prevents the target from receiving any damage this turn and causes 1 minor injury to the source of the damage. So, and hey, Automod, thank you so much for basically letting me deny that post. Spammers, go fuck yourselves. All right, so fire break. So first of all, it's costing a minor injury to the source of the damage. No, so let's do that. But so fire break is basically a long distance nope, right? It's a counter spell, effectively. It allows you to like, oh shit. So basically it's here's how I would see fire break kind of coming in. Let's say the bulwark has been doing the pushback. They're maintaining. Somebody else takes an action, right? They're going to do their thing. And I, as the bulwark, the guide asked me, hey, are you maintaining your push? And I asked the bulwark, say yes, because this guy is still within range, right? And so the guy goes, okay, cool. So now we know you don't have the -1 penalty for the boulder or whatever it is in that combat, blah, blah. Make your roll. Then the guy makes his roll, and maybe he fails. Or maybe another monster's trick is able to affect him because of the effects of this roll. So he's about to take an injury. So this fire break would effectively act as an interrupt. So basically, I as the bulwark would be able to say like, oh shit, he's about to get hit. You know what? I'm stopping my push. Fire break. I cause an explosion of heat between the guy who's about to get hurt and the source, the source of that injury that was about to be inflicted. I spend 2 connection. My push is broken. So now I don't continue that. If I wanted to recontinue it, I would have to reactivate it. But by spending that, then now that damage is prevented. Yes, but this is an explosion of heat and rocks, so I think it should also do something, prevents damage and cancels one trick. I think I'm going to need a better terminology. Counters. I'm going to say counters. Encounters one. No. Yeah. Counters one enemy trick. Generally, the trick that was about to cause the damage. Okay, that works. That works. So basically, it has a side effect of like, so now the enemy is off balance or injured or whatever. Point is, the stone ogre was about to throw, or maybe that boulder was about to hit my friend. Explosion, friend gets knocked back a little but unhurt because magic. Boulder gets blown back and hits all the way back, hits the ogre, breaks his shoulder. Ogre can no longer, that trick is gone, right? So I like that. I like that ability for the bulwark now with that additional thing, because before it was doing some level damage, but we're not doing damage. We're doing trick cancellations. That works better. And finally, Pyroclasm. Okay, so this was a big one. This was a big one. It costs 4. It's the ultimate ability within the strata. Stratum of Pyroclasm transforms the bulwark into a molten guardian. Their entire body and everything they are carrying transform into glowing superheated magma. This effect lasts until the end of combat or the end of the scene, or until the bulwark ends it. While this ability is active, the bulwark gains the following benefits. 1 aptitude in combat rolls to damage enemies. Okay, yeah. Good, because you can make a combat roll to damage it. Yeah, that's fine. Or no, that's damage enemies. Rolls to count. Yeah, there we go. To counter enemy tricks. I think that fits better. That's what the system now does. Resonance or any rolls to resist damage. Yes, because we did introduce the soak mechanic. Any flammable surface or substance that you come into contact with will be set aflame. That's basic. Resonance on any rolls based on physical strength. Cool. And the roiling heat that comes off your body in this state causes a level 1 heat stroke discord to any enemies within close range of you. There's no effect on allies within that range. Discord heat stroke, so basically any enemies close to me, and once I go full Pyroclasm, I'm probably just gonna fucking wade into combat, So, as many enemies as I can are gonna be nice and toasty. So they all get a minus. Okay, so heat stroke is cool. I like that this effect, but monsters don't have physical action rolls, and while combat volley rounds are no longer a thing, and they wouldn't resolve that. So effect will go on physical action rolls, or oops, nope, undo. Physical action rolls. There we go. Or trick effects, or enemy trick effects. Until resolved. Because then that would mean that while heat stroke is enemy, that would imply that while heat stroke is active, right? Enemy trick effects until resolved. So while this is active, or actually no, or cancel, or negate 1 dice penalty from enemy trick effects until resolved. Ugh, that wording is awkward. But the idea is that the trick still technically works, but -1 die is negated. Or we could make it, this is a high power one, we could just make it and say that it just negate. Yeah, so we could maybe say instead of this, go negate. No, or sorry, rather counter one enemy, one trick for each enemy in range while active. So basically, at that point, the bulwark's presence in their full pyroclasm form, just merely existing, automatically counters one trick from every enemy in range, in close range. Everybody enemy like engaged with them. Just so long as this maintains, and this maintains automatically until the end of combat. I feel like that's pretty powerful. I feel like that fits a sort of ultimate level ability. Like, again, more powerful monsters will have multiple tricks, but that's what the rest of your party is for. But a single person, just by not even having to make any rolls, any action rolls, just fucking wading in, and the heat of what they're doing and everything makes it so that every enemy in range loses one of their tricks. That alone, combat, right? That can just turn entire combat around. So I think that's good as it is now, especially with that little tweak to the heat stroke Discord. I think that fits pretty well. And with that, we're wrapping up. It's 4:58 p.m. here at Casa Dan here on the East Coast, and I'm gonna just take us back to the intro as we wrap it up, because as usual, it's 5 p.m. Time for me to wrap it up. Give my cat some lap time, and are tricks only for combat? Well, yes, kind of. Tricks are. Let me go back real quick. So tricks are for kids, is what I'm trying to say here. Where'd my obsidian go? Tricks are specifically monster abilities, right? Enemy abilities, rather. They're unique powers, abilities, or skills that an enemy can bring to bear during a combat. Most enemies have at least one trick. More powerful beings can have 3 or more tricks available. So tricks are specifically an enemy thing. I don't think they're necessarily going to be restricted, like they're going to be primarily combat, right? There's things that come into effect when you are engaging with an enemy in combat. But that said, yes, I think enemy abilities, all enemy abilities will be called tricks, or I mean, we might change the name, but right now that's what we're going with. But I want to call them tricks because in fact, we might even change enemies to something else, because cat, really? I love you. We're almost done, baby girl. We're almost done. It's 5 p.m. I'm wrapping up. But like, I want them to be things that enemies would be able to do outside of combat, right? Like, it's a fight hasn't broken out, but you are facing a vampire or like some other creature that has abilities that might. Sorry, my cat's claws had gotten tangled in my coat. Hey, sweetheart. Hi. Yeah, my lights are changed because it's 5 p.m. We got to wrap up. But I think you got the idea, PB. Yeah. So the idea is that while tricks are going to be pretty combat focused, combat heavy, they have the availability. Enemies, and in fact, that's something that we could do like next week maybe. Let's say, hi, beautiful. I love you. I love my cat. Let's say next week, we could take some time and design some enemies with this sort of framework. And that way we can get a better idea of what like enemies might look like both in and out of combat, and how to design some enemies that, like they're still enemies, they're still challenges for the players and the party. I'm just, the cat thinks I'm telling her all these things. Right, sweetheart? Yeah, you care so much about my game design. There we go, there she goes. But I think we could spend some time creating some enemies next week and see how that treats us, and see if we can create some enemies that have some tricks that work both in and out of combat. I'm excited for that. But with that in mind, folks, it is 5 p.m. It's time for me to get going. If anybody is in chat that has not been here before, thank you so much for hanging out. This is my schedule from week to week. I usually stream Tuesday through Fridays, like today, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Again, quick heads up, that situation is going to change probably around mid-December. stay tuned for that. One great way to stay tuned is, of course, to visit my socials. They are all there. Follow me on the socials. That's where I talk about things. And otherwise, folks, thanks so much for hanging out. I hope you have an amazing evening wherever you are. I hope you have an incredible weekend. I may be back on the weekend at some point to stream, but again, no guarantees. You can guarantee that definitely next Tuesday I will be back. Potentially Monday. The thing that kept me from streaming on Mondays has kind of changed, but I think next Monday might be one of the ones that I still will not stream that day, just to keep a little bit of sanity around here. But otherwise, folks, thanks so much for hanging out. PB, Phoenix, you two are real ones. I appreciate you hanging out today. Hope you have great days, and I will see you all another time. Take care, folks. Take care.